And at the time, she was only 11 years old when she was kidnapped and drugged with jelly beans and flown on a private jet to New York. And that picture with the girl on Diddy's lap with the D&G sweater, that's her. She's 11 years old in that picture. They put those clothes on her. They did her.
What would happen if one of the most influential people in entertainment ended up in a position so dreadful that it seemed like something from a movie? Diddy arrives, the hip-hop mogul, whose name is often associated with power, success, and fortune is currently behind that. The entertainment industry has been rocked by the accusations of racketeering and marine assist trafficking against Diddy, but what if the headlines only tell part of the story? What if Diddy's problems behind bars are far worse than anybody could have imagined?
But for people who have no concept of what going to jail is like, what is it like when you first go in there?
The first couple of days are heartbreaking because you're taken completely away from family. There's no interaction with anyone except prisoners or the guards, so you have no idea what to expect as far as going through things with the prisoner or the guards, because it can go either way when you first walk through those prison gates. So it's really, even for the toughest person in the world, it's scary because you just don't know what to expect.
And do you have all of your belongings taken away?
Everything. And I went in with extension braids in my hair. They made me sit in the cell and take every braid out of my hair before I was let into population.
I mean, for somebody like who's a billionaire beforehand, somebody like Diddy, it must be completely shocking.
It's actually, I don't think that MDC is for any human being at all. I mean, I'm not saying that no one belongs, you commit a crime, you have to wait to, your trial and everything else, but I don't think that jail is fit for anyone unless they clean up the conditions.
Lots of prisoners complain about lots of different jails and they say that the conditions are not up to scratch. What, in your opinion, makes the MDC stand out? What makes it worse?
What makes it worse is the food. Mostly everything is stale food, is old food that's donated by other people that they wrap up or they cook for you. Mostly everything they have is full of not roaches and the giant cockroaches. You can smell the mold, you can smell the rot, you can smell the jail that it needs to be rebuilt. It needs help. I don't think anyone should be in that particular jail.
There are lots of different people inside that jail. We know that there's a wing that houses high-profile prisoners, R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, now P. Diddy's in there. Are you aware of the high-profile prisoners? Do you have any interaction with them?
I don't have any, and we never had interaction with high-profile prisoners at all.
And one of the main reasons that a lot of people know about the Metropolitan Detention Center was because it made headlines in 2019. And one of the issues they had was keeping their prison population warm. And it gets extremely cold in Brooklyn.
Well, in 2019, something went wrong. They had a power outage. They didn't have any water. They didn't have any lights. They didn't have any heat. And the mayor tried to the city council tried to bring over blankets, and the warden wouldn't accept it. They were banging. My brother called me from a cell phone that was not supposed to be there. And he cried. He said, "Listen, I think I'm gonna die in here." So I panicked. I said, "What the hell?"
The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, one of the most notorious detention facilities in New York City, is where notorious people like R. Kelly, J.Y. Maxwell, and even Jeffrey Epstein were housed prior to their deaths. It is a place known for its filthy conditions, where reports of cockroach infestations, freezing temperatures, and overflowing toilets are just the beginning. It all began when Diddy was denied bail despite offering a whopping $50 million bond. The court determined that he was a flight risk, ensuring his fate there.
Having problems with a prisoner, do I have to, call a lawyer or what can I do? He said, "No, I'm going to freeze to death." I said, "Freeze?" He said, "Yeah, we don't have no water." So I called the news station and made a whole big show. And I went down there and I, had to do something about it, not just for my brother, but for anybody. He was telling me that he thought his roommate was going to die because his feet was turning purple. They didn't give my brother his medication. No gas, no lights, no water, no heat. For almost 2 weeks.
Just take me back to the moment, because I've seen the videos of you outside protesting. It is extremely impactful. You can hear prisoners shouting down from their cells saying, "We are freezing."
I screamed to the inmates. I said, "Everybody, please be quiet." And they stopped banging. I said, "If you are freezing cold, bang on the windows." It was so loud you could hear it from blocks away. It was so loud, and it was, it was heartbreaking, for me to know that, my brother and other people were going through this.
Yeah, and look, I've spoken to your brother, Jason, about this incident. He shared with me some diary entries that he kept from that time. At one point, he wrote, I have socks on my toilet seat so that when I sit down, it will be warm. I mean, these are the sort of lengths that prisoners were going through.
It was horrible because, my brother's a man's man. So to hear him on the phone trembling like, I don't think I'm going to make it here, let me tell you what's going on, that was scary for me. I couldn't imagine, and at that time, it's funny because at that time, the news was, people were going up, picking up stray dogs, taking them off the streets and taking the bums off the trains and off the streets so they wouldn't freeze to death. But yet and still, you would allow these prisoners in that jail to freeze.
And look, we did ask the Federal Bureau of Prisons for a statement on what happened in 2019. They didn't directly address it, but they said they have an administrative remedy program for incarcerated individuals to seek formal review and redress of almost any concern they have regarding their incarceration. The Bureau of Prisons say the MDC should be safe, humane, and provide work and other self-improvement opportunities to assist offenders in becoming law-abiding citizens. Does the MDC, in your opinion, live up to what they say their prison should do?
Like I said, because you're in prison and you're serving time or you're waiting, to go to court or to go to trial or whatever it is, does not mean that you're not a human being. Just like what's going on with Diddy, he still deserves to be treated as a human being. He still deserves a fair trial, innocent before proven guilty. Whatever happened to that?
So how do you keep yourself entertained throughout the day? What do you do?
Well, I read books. And I daydreamed a lot. Like literally just to keep my head on straight. I prayed a lot.
So we were just hearing from Katana Yehuda about what it's like to stay inside the Metropolitan Detention Center. Andrew Dalek is a New York-based federal public defender, and he's represented lots of clients who've served time there. Andrew, is it really as bad as people say?
Well, first, Anushka, I want to thank you and the BBC for taking an interest in the conditions at MDC Brooklyn, because it is an important issue of significant public interest. Anybody who has a loved one detained in that facility, that they deeply care about their well-being and their safety there, and they have good reason to. It is as bad of a place as people say it is.
According to reports, Diddy's first meal at NBC was Swedish meatballs with sides like green beans, egg noodles, and a garden salad. He also had the option of a black bean burger, but it seems like the meatballs were the only option. Imagine the man who used to throw million. Dual parties now confined to a cell eating meals that many wouldn't consider appetizing. He fell
down, and he got shook, and I just stood on top of him, grabbed him, and next thing you know, NYPD was there.
Okay, so that situation happened. And then a bit after that, in Atlanta, Suge's best friend, Big Jake, gets killed in a club. And this part is kind of fuzzy, but there was a rumor that Wolf was the one that did it. Puffy got blamed for it, and so forth. But I guess Wolf wasn't the one who did it, but still there was some sort of blame that Suge had on Bad Boy over that situation, right?
I don't know if Suge had blamed Bad Boy for that, because the situation never came, when I got with him, the situation never came to us like that. Now, I've heard Wolf talk about it, and Wolf told me personally that he didn't do it. And I know everybody knew the guy who did it. It was this dude, he's dead now. He got killed in Atlanta about 2 or 3 years ago. His father was from the Bronx and he owned the cleaners. Now, did Wolf and them know him? Yeah, they probably knew him. He was from the Bronx, his part of town. His father owned the cleaners. They knew this guy. You understand? Him and Jake was arguing over this chick or whatever. Now, did Wolf do it? How could Wolf do it when he was next to Suge? He was right next to Suge when Jake got killed. But everybody want to say Wolf did it because that glamorized the situation.
Right. Okay. And then after that, Wolf actually reached out to you and asked you to come back to Bad Boy and help out with security.
Well, I told Wolf he had to straighten out his thing with Slick. We met on 125th Street, me, Slick, Rico, and Wolf. Him and Slick talked and everything, and it was cool and everything. So he said, yo, Gene, I need you to come because we need somebody who was in law enforcement or legal that could carry a gun and everything to be with us. He said, and if you ran after me, and this was his own words, because I didn't see it and I didn't know it at the time, you know, he said, if you ran after me and I had a gun in my hand, I want you on my team. I said, I don't fuck with Puff like that, bro. He said, from the city college shit. He said, yo, you're gonna have your own contract. You're gonna have your own days. All you have to do is listen to me and make sure he good. I said, all right, man, we'll see. And that's when I went back.
Okay, so you joined the security team at Bad Boy with your own contract.
Right.
Right. And Wolf was already over there, and Big Paul was over there as well.
Paul, yeah.
Yeah, Paulie. And Paulie was kind of Puffy's everyday guy?
Yeah, Paul was the guy who Puff helped him set up a security company, had him set up a security company. So he did the security at the house, the apartment building or whatever, and Sean John, and over at Bad Boy and the studios. So he set up all the security for those.
Diddy's once glitzy lifestyle has been reduced to a monotonous, regimented existence. Former warden Cameron Lindsay gave a chilling glimpse into Diddy's daily routine, which includes getting up at 6 in the morning, making his bed, and cleaning his cell. He only takes 3 showers a week and has an hour of free time every day.
Puffy's personal security as well?
Puff, that's all I did was Puff.
Okay, and I guess every so often, Puffy will put you with Big during certain events and so forth, right?
Well, like if we was on stage or Big was on stage, he felt threatened for Big, I guess. He said, yo, Gene, go watch Big. I said, all right, cool. It wouldn't matter.
Okay, so you doing some work for Biggie, did the two of you kind of form a relationship?
I think me and Big we formed a relationship on 2 occasions. One, we was in DC doing Howard University. He made Puff shut the door down, and the people shut the door down, and it was D-Rock. I think D-Rock's birthday is the 17th, mine is the 16th of October, and he made him shut down the place, and just me and D-Rock bought like 5 outfits together, and then everybody else bought an outfit. And then Big used to just give me all the clothes that he didn't want. Like, you know, you had Nike, Lugs, you had Mecca clothing line. They would bring big boxes to Big everywhere we was at. And then he was like, yo, whatever he didn't want, he'd say, yo, D-Rock, you want this? D-Rock was like, nah, I don't want it. He said, yo, Big Gene, you want it? And then I was like, man, I'll take it and give it to the guys on the block, you know, who was with part of our crew or whatever. But the kid was just good like that. And then we had a situation when we were in Atlanta that something was bought, and he thought I was gonna lie about it because Puff was trying to say it was his, and it wasn't his, it was Big's. And you understand? And when he said, and they had made a bet that I was gonna go on Puff's side. So when I got to the studio, I said, nah, Puff, you had that one, and Big had that one, and that's what it was. And Big looked at me, and you could see a smile on his face like, yo, this nigga's honorable.
Okay. And before all the drama began, did Tupac ever come around? Did you ever see Big and Tupac interact together?
No, I never seen Big and Tupac interact together. I seen Puff
okay.
and Pac interact together, but I didn't see
really?
Big, yeah.
In what capacity?
Like we was at Roxy. They used to give functions and parties there. And then one time me and Puff walked up in there. It was, this was after Pac got shot and everything like that. And it was Pac and like 4 other guys. And Pac put a cigarette in his mouth. The dude lit the cigarette. I started laughing. I was like, who fuck like a cigarette for? Like that. So then him and Puff talked, and that was it. Was nothing.
Okay, and then the incident happened at Quad Studios.
This was after the incident at Quad, when I seen Pac with Puff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when the situation happened at Quad, Biggie was recording, I think, with Lil Sean. And I think Puffy was there. little secret.
However, here is when the narrative takes a more sinister turn. There are rumors circulating within the prison walls that Diddy could have developed a deadly illness. While incarcerated, the details are unclear, but the prison physicians could the unhygienic circumstances at MEC have contributed to the revelations that have RA concerns billions.
Billions can't help him, right?
He still Diddy.
Yeah, he still did it. Come on.
Well, I mean, I went through the filings and the reports. So what they say, according, to the feds, that recorded phone calls made by Diddy showed that he asked family members to reach out to potential victims and witnesses. Also urged them to create narratives to influence the jury pool. Also encouraged them to make marketing strategies to sway the public opinion. Diddy used the telephone accounts of at least 8 different inmates to avoid monitoring. He paid the inmates to intermediaries in violation of the rules, like you said, and he also was using 3-way calls and getting people on the phone, which is illegal. So basically what they said, the defendant has shown repeatedly, even while in custody, that he will flagrantly and repeatedly flout rules in order to improperly impact the outcome of the case. The defendant has shown, in other words, that he cannot be trusted to abide by rules or conditions. And I guess they actually found a note that inferred that he wants to blackmail victims and witnesses into silence by providing testimony, or into providing testimony that's actually helpful to his defense. So I guess what I'm wondering is, he does realize all this is being taped. You're using someone else's, privileges, but they're watching everything.
Okay.
A 3-way call, it's being recorded.
So my takeaway was much different from that. My takeaway was, I'm gonna wait for the government to file a superseding indictment, which we all believe is coming, because right now it looks a little thin. And it looks a little pathetic, I'm gonna be honest with you. Because yes, it's great to make Diddy look like this maniacal mob boss, which, of course he's using the influence of his money. But does anyone, again, it's good for the person who never ever dealt with someone in jail. How many inmates, and Vlad, no names here, how many inmates do you know that do 3-way call? They all do it.
Yeah.
They all do it.
I talk to inmates
and it's always
on cell phones while locked up in Rikers.
Exactly. And
I'm not going to say who.
And no one is saying, yo, Vlad, this is to influence my case. Sometimes they just call, be like, yo, what's the word out there, man? Everything good? You're like, yeah, I'm going to come home soon. It's all good. Blah. Sometimes it's never. So that I thought was a little bit thin. Obviously, they're trying to keep him in jail. Him putting money on other people's books. Yeah, he's a rich guy. He wants to have his privileges, right? Now, this whole thing of him trying to blackmail people, and I hate to even, because some people are going to be like, oh, no, he's getting Diddy's back. No, I'm defending someone who is, and this could be anybody, who's locked up and using whatever he can to his advantage to try to get things looking better for himself before he goes to trial.
Yeah, but some of this stuff is illegal. You can't
everybody does it.
You can't, it doesn't matter if everyone else does it. For everyone else, it'll be a slap on the wrist. Everyone knows this is a big fish. No slaps on the wrist when it comes to Diddy. They're going to prosecute him to the fullest extent in order to keep him in there.
Although there has been no official confirmation, the claims are enough to scare his fan following, and beyond something more sinister may be the consequence of stress hunger or even foul play.
We're back with an exclusive update on the federal case against rapper Sean Diddy Combs. NBC News has learned that a federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York is expected to hear new testimony today.
Combs' legal team did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's being held at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center.
NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas joins us with more on her reporting here. Chloe, good morning. Good to have you with us. So what can you tell us about the testimony expected today?
So NBC News actually spoke to the attorney for this male who's going to be testifying this afternoon around 3 p.m. in front of a grand jury. Her name is Ariel Mitchell. She has represented other civil accusers. And this is incredibly significant because I was at the last hearing for Combs in downtown Manhattan, and I listened to Emily Johnson, one of the U.S. attorneys, one of the prosecutors who is trying this case, say that there might be another indictment. So this just goes to show you that federal prosecutors, that criminal investigation is ongoing. Now, it's unclear what this man will be saying. Remember, grand juries are secret. You're not supposed to know the date and when the grand juries are convening, but obviously we have this great reporting and we know that a male is going to be testifying this afternoon, and it's unclear if there will be more charges coming. And like you said, Diddy's legal team, they haven't responded because they can't comment on grand jury proceedings. proceedings, and the U.S. Attorney's Office hasn't said anything either.
So that's the latest on the criminal side. There's also some civil issues here. Combs faces more than a dozen civil lawsuits. The most recent was filed on Monday. Only one has been settled so far. What's the timeline looking like for these civil cases?
So he has been coming out denying all the accusations against him, both criminal and civil, and he has been fighting them. As we know, he settled with Cassandra Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, last year for an undisclosed amount of money that was reported to be in the tens of millions of dollars. But I do want to point out something that's really interesting. Last night, a ruling came down from a U.S. district judge in New York stating that one of the civil accusers, a woman who remains anonymous, she goes by Jane Doe, in this civil suit filed by Tony Busby. He's the attorney out of Texas that has filed several lawsuits against Diddy. The judge ruled that this woman had to reveal her identity, or in a few weeks, she's actually going to dismiss this entire case. And this is incredibly significant because could that mean that other civil accusers will face the same fate and have to come forward? The judge said that the idea that she needed to remain anonymous because she was afraid of Combs potentially hurting her or threatening her seemed unlikely because he's currently behind bars awaiting trial. They also said that, yes, in the ruling, the judge said, yes, it's humiliating. It's hard to come forward and to put your name out there, but that does not outweigh the reasons for you having to come forward and put your name to it. So we've reached out to Combs' legal team for comment. This is a win for them. They haven't said anything. I've also reached out to Tony Busby, who filed this suit, and he was the one that filed those new lawsuits, Joe, on Monday. So again, it'll be interesting to see if this affects these civil cases. And again, Combs is expected to go to trial on May 5th. So it's going to be interesting to see, though, if things are going to get pushed back, or could this extend the length of the trial if there is another criminal indictment?
Yeah, and that's that criminal trial. And you do think that that will stay on track for May?
So according to both sides, they believe that this is going to take place on May 5th. But if there are more criminal charges, it could mean that about a 2.5, 3 week trial could extend to even longer. So you could see this going on for quite some time.
All right, Chloe, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.
The stunning accusations made against him are nothing more than fuel for the flames. Diddy, who was previously hailed as a pioneer in the music business, is now charged with horrible offenses, including trafficking in C** and transporting people for prostitution.